right, Cut Ups, episode 5, brought to you by Maize and Blue Review. We're here. I'm Trevor McCue, staff writer from Maize and Blue Review, joined as always by Mr. Osentoski. How you doing, brother?
Doing well. I finally look at this little banner thing I got. I had the one for you all set up, and then I was like, you know what? I need to have mine going there. So, yeah.
We're slight improvements every week, but
yeah, we're getting there, man. What's your initial take? What was, say, 50 seconds after the game? What was your first action? Did you let a deep breath go? What was your reflection upon the conclusion of the game, Trevor?
Yeah, I kind of stayed away from it this time. And I noticed, getting into watching some highlights and doing my stock report and digging in some numbers. This kind of reminded me of last week where, like, during the game, I had a lot of anxiety, felt very frustrated, felt like Michigan left a lot on the table, blah, blah, blah. And then going back, I feel a lot better about the game looking at it. Obviously, we saw a pretty stark difference first half to second half, and that's exactly what we're going to dive into on this episode. But again, like I talked about a lot last week, I had to reset myself, kind of compare where Michigan was last year at this time, and just, again, we're expecting perfection very early in the season, and it's just another road win, decent victory, maybe a game Michigan would have struggled with in the past. I think there's still some things to figure out, but my gut reaction after the game was like, oh, that felt harder than it needed to be. But I've kind of come around to, I think that was a good win for Michigan.
Yeah, it was something, especially, it felt like a different game the first half to second half in a way that I don't think many other games this year have felt. So looking back, it was like, man, what did really happen between that first and second half? Some things outside of their control for sure in the first half that made it a little bit more difficult. But
for sure.
I think Indiana is a really well scouting team. I think they scouted Michigan extremely well. So I think we'll see quite a few things that I think Michigan adapted to pretty considerably from the first half to the second.
Well, let's dive right in because I know we have a lot. So the game plan is to look at the defense first half, some formations, some plays, and then the adjustments that were made in the second half. We've got a lot of offensive stuff lined up as well. May have to split that into a part B episode. So let's go ahead and dive right into the Michigan defense first quarter here, first possession for Indiana. Toski, I lose you? Oh, sure enough, he's frozen here. Give this a second here. I'm not sure. He's the host of the show, so I'm not sure if there's anything I can do here. Oh, he just messaged me he lost power. So we're going to hang out here for a minute and see if this is something he can quickly resolve or if we're going to have to work around this here. Yep, there he goes. All right, he said he's going to need about 5 minutes. So I do have access to the YouTube comments. I guess in the meantime, while Toski's trying to get back in here and get all our film running up, if anybody watching has any comments, questions about the Michigan-Indiana game, things you observed or thoughts you have moving forward. I know we're going to get into it with the defense. I was impressed with the pass rush again, right? 2 straight games where it feels like they've kind of found something there, right? With Mike Morris, who is really come on since we've got into Big Ten play. I'm not ready to say he's matching Aiden Hutchinson, but I was pretty shocked by some of the comp numbers I saw working on my defensive stock report in terms of where Hutchinson was at this point last year. Similar pressures, sacks are equal, pass rush rating, PFF rating, all of those things are right in line. So Morris is doing great. Shadyville, thoughts on linebacker struggles and pass coverage? Yeah, that's still the big concern. I believe it was 9 for 9 when targeting Colson and Barrett for Indiana in this game. I know there was no incompletion. So they continue to get picked on. Michigan's doing some different things. I'm sure we'll get into Osentoski here to try and alleviate that, but I'm impressed with the defense so far. I think they could be better, but yes, linebackers and pass coverage is definitely my biggest concern so far.
I have a hot take about the linebackers. You ready for this hot take?
Yes.
I think Michigan is a playoff contender if they figure out their linebacker positioning. I think that is the absolute key.
Better teams are going to pick on that for sure.
100%. That's the limiting factor. If Michigan's going to take it from a conference contender to a playoff contender, that's absolutely what needs to improve. And
I know they're getting creative there. But
they're trying a lot of bodies too. You see Jimmy Rolder getting a lot of time, Khalil Mullings. They're trying to find a guy desperately to step up there. They just haven't had it yet. So I'm hoping they'll be able to find that. That's a really good call out of, especially in pass coverage, but I also think in run coverage it could improve too. Okay. Brief power outage. Perfect timing for that. Let me add my screen here.
You tell me a good time for your power to go out, bud.
Oh my gosh, I don't know what happened, man. That's the worst.
Well, I'm glad you're back. So
yeah, let's dive into this first play on defense here. And first thing we just want to look at here is the alignment, right? You got man, but look how far off here, right? They're going to send a running back here into orbit. And really that's going to be Junior Colson's responsibility. But look at the hesitancy on this play right off the bat, right? There goes number 2. And look at defense is pointing around, right? You got Junior Colson pointing. McCurry Page doesn't really know if he's supposed to step up. It just looks like they're not really on the same page. And, you know, this is early on in the game, but also consider how the reaction here is when it comes with tempo, right? When you're snapping the ball quickly, things like alignment, things like adjustment based on certain motions, that's something that Indiana is hoping you're going to struggle with, right? So right here, you're still looking around, not sure what your adjustment is. And then McCurry Page right here, right? He's lined up on the innermost wide receiver. He's going to start following him. Look at the eyes here of Junior Colson in the backfield, right? All you need right here from a quarterback is throw and look at all the bodies outside, right? Block. And I call these plays setting yards on fire if you're defense, right? This hesitancy, this not sure of who to cover, because even McCurry Page here doesn't follow this wide receiver. This guy's open, right? So if there's any adjustments here, this is not well defended from either McCurry Page or Junior Colson. And look at just the free yardage, right? They don't even really have to block. They're just running their defensive backs out of the way. So this is really probably maybe a lack of preparation, right? How much time are they actually spending on Indiana, but also some youth, right? Junior Colson hasn't been in a linebacker position all too long. McCurry Page is, you know, you'd expect him to be a little bit more prepared than he was on this play. I also think it's just the pace, right? They're probably trotting out a few different formations that maybe they haven't seen. But this is just a quick example of, you know, it's a simple play, but it's 9 yards and that's first down. And that's going to set them up really well for second and third down, make it really manageable for Indiana here.
My hot take here is, I mean, this is just the best example of where Michigan misses Josh Ross.
Yeah.
You can say what you want about his athletic ability. It's the reason that man made a 53-man roster, and it was his football IQ. So to say Colson doesn't have Ross's football IQ isn't an insult, because I don't know if anybody coming through Michigan in the era of Harbaugh has had the football IQ of Josh Ross, other than maybe his brother, right? So
yeah.
As the Will last year, granted they're both inside linebackers, but the Will was more allowed to kind of be an athlete. They sent Colson on blitzes more. They did it a little bit in this game as well. In this game, he kind of needs to be the quarterback of the defense, and that's where he struggles. I mean, he really struggles to diagnose a play pre-snap. You know, he's constantly looking around to see where guys are going, you know, whether it's his teammates on defense or how offensive players are reacting. So if you give him an assignment and tell him to go, he does a great job. But when it comes to stuff like this, he just seems to get tricked up really easily, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what the assignment here is. It seems like with this motion, Barrett kind of drops here. He's sort of a middle zone. It seems like all the way this should be the read for Junior Colson, right? You're following this guy probably if he's out of the backfield coming out on the pass. So if he's motioning out here, your instinct should be, hey, I'm also in charge of him, even if he sets up here, not necessarily in motion. So to me, that's just a misassignment. Hard to say 100% what the role is there, but to me, that is probably just a lack of understanding here. And starting off this next play, again, what's happening with the defense, right? You look at the play clock. This is a little bit later in the quarter, but it's 29 seconds on the play clock. So they're setting up quick. You're pointing around, right? These three, you're kind of all pointing around, trying to figure out your alignment. I'm not sure exactly what's going on. And again, this is just setting yards on fire, right? 2nd and 8, that creates a 3rd and 1. And just going by numbers here, right? What do you got? 1-on-1 out here. And then you got 1, 2, 3 here for Indiana, these three, and really only 1, 2, right? Your next best guy who can cover any sort of quick throw out here is your safety or possibly a linebacker. But really, if this is going to the outside, right, you're just outnumbering guys. You got 4 against really 3 close, and that's just winning numbers if you're Indiana. So just a simple screen, right? Run him off, right? DJ Turner has pass consideration first. He's not looking in the backfield. So then the 2 blocks you really need is 1, 2. When you're Indiana, you don't have the athletes really to match up on a guy per guy basis, right? This is a lot that you probably aren't confident with your guys winning this matchup. Out here, though, you're confident that you can get 1 or 2 blocks, run a guy down, and just pick up free space, right? So if you are Indiana, you're going to take this all day. That's an easy throw. You don't need to execute a whole lot. You really just need 2 blocks, right? There's your 2 blocks. You're done. And then look at all the free grass here, and you got your safety, Rod Moore, coming down to stop that. But again, you'll take that any day if you're Indiana at a talent loss. That's exactly what you're looking for, and something that Michigan, frankly, took a little bit too long to actually adjust to. Okay, let's move into third play here. This one, little play action pass. So I mentioned a couple things outside of Michigan's control here. This is just not a good penalty, right? I think Michigan struggled early. I think the referees struggled early, and they struggled for both teams. Okay, so this isn't me calling that every call went against Michigan. Actually, a nice little play fake here to keep Basilik from under pressure, right? I think this is the most time he got in the pocket all day. Just kind of roll him out a little bit. But you're only sending 2 guys deep if you're Indiana, right? You're sending number 10 here and outside wide receiver here. So you're keeping in max protect. I'm surprised they didn't try this a little bit more often with the play action here. So it's a simple little play here. The issue is that the ref calls, I would call it a ticky-tack, right? If you see where the contact is made right about here, that's where the right arm of DJ Turner gets around the wide receiver. Is it pass interference? Again, it depends how strict you are about the rule. To me, I feel like you see this all the time, and it rarely gets called. Really, what didn't impede the wide receiver all that much, you could, even though it was relatively close, you could deem this uncatchable. Like, I don't think there's really a chance for the wide receiver to catch this ball if DJ Turner does not do this motion as well. The thing that I don't really get is, watch this ref. We're going to do some ref annotations, the rare ref annotation here. Watch that right arm of the ref. He's going for that flag right now before there's any contact made here. Right? There's nothing. If we go back to the other angle here, right about here is where that ref is starting to reach for that flag. There is no contact while he's making that reach. So I don't know why he's reaching here, right? You're running that route with him. Hand is already on that flag. So I just don't understand, right? And again, this went both ways, all half, especially the first half. Before any,
they were flag happy for sure. Yeah. And there wasn't really any favoritism. It was just constant.
It was just bad. Yeah, they were just kind of making a show out of it. So again, that's 3rd and 1. Just going back, right? Like, that's 3rd and 1. Sure, it's probably possible 4-down territory. You are still in Indiana territory here, but that stuff's important. On 3rd down, get off the field, right? And if the ref doesn't throw that, then it's 4th and 1 in their own territory, already down 7-0 if you're Indiana. And that's a scary proposition to go for it in your own territory. So that's just something where you have to consider it, right? Michigan was giving a lot of yards, a lot of things they were playing sloppy about, but also there's, some things like these penalties that can really go a long way in changing the outlook of a game.
There's a big reason offenses like those type of calls, because if you cut up the odds percentage, it's either a catch or a PI the vast majority of the time, right? Like, But yeah, this just falls another one of those. I mean, yeah, you're right. He's reaching for flag first. That's weird, but the receiver holds up a little bit. The throw, the throw is a little underthrown, and it's such a. Again, maybe if he looks at, maybe it's because his head's not looking back. I don't know, but yeah,
it's one of those weird things where there were a couple where DJ Turner did commit pass interference, and one was called, one was not. So it's probably something also of tendency, right? Is this guy more of a grabby wide receiver? So that's something that refs pay attention to as well. But frustrating nonetheless. Okay, here we are again. You got this kind of exotic look, what I would say. You got one wide receiver out here. You got bunch, one wide receiver at the top. And again, look at before I even go into the play, they're pointing, right? There's a lot of alignment still jogging out to this wide receiver. 27 on the play clock here when the ball is snapped. So they're just running fast, right? And this is just one of the most frustrating plays where, you know, you had this covered pretty well, actually, right? Where previous plays, sure, you're a little late lining up, but you're 3 for 3 here over the stack. You got your numbers here on the outside if you're Michigan for any sort of quick screens. You got numbers. So they're going 1-on-1 again against Turner here. And the pass rush gets there, right? You're bringing 5. When I say they, Indiana do a poor job picking up the edge here. Both the right tackle and right guard are going to be blocking inside here on Mozzie Smith. So some sort of miscommunication on the offensive line there, right? Really good jump off the edge. Basilik understands he's in trouble. Just hoist this up, right? This looks like one of his 15 or so throwaways. This one just happens to be in bounds and just happens to be a great spot, right? So it's really and I mean, I've never seen a throw really like this, right? He's throwing this to a spot in the middle, off
like
his
a Kobe fadeaway, man.
Seriously,
it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
of course, really, it just plops right in the perfect spot.
Really crazy. By the time, look at where he's at when he throws this ball, right? He's deciding to throw this now. This doesn't even look close to open, right? Decent coverage early on. DJ Turner still, trying to force him out of bounds there. So reaching there for DJ Turner, not the best technique, right? Instead of running with him right now, he does kind of an extra reach there. He should be running in stride, looking to get that hand in the hip pocket rather than sort of trying to force him out of bounds. So that hurt him, right? So, I mean, give credit to Bazelak, right? This is 3rd and 13 for putting that ball up there, giving his wide receiver a chance. But that one is, if you're a defense, right, you're going to live with that, right? You hate to see it. It's not something that's replicable too often if you're on offense, right? It's kind of one where you get away with it and you're happy that you did. But again, it's kind of just one of those things where it's like, we had him, right? You had what you wanted, just a little bit lack of execution there from the defense. And I don't like using the luck word all too often, but I think that's pretty lucky throw.
That's lucky. Yeah. I think we can make an exception, right?
The moonshot. Yeah.
Yeah. Turner's got to trust his game a little bit more. The dude's got crazy speed, right? So you can make a play there and catch back up to the guy. I'm with you. I'm not really sure, like you said, that little reach there.
Initially good technique here, but then the second move right there.
Yep. So, chalk it up. It happens. But yeah, third and long, that's where this defensive scheme eats. So you're only frustrated that like everything goes right for you, and then that doesn't.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. It's frustrating. All right, 2nd and 10 here. This is one, again, lack of execution, right? This one, I'll give Indiana a little bit more credit. This is a good play call. Right? Let's switch to the end zone view here. This is probably focusing on what are the tendencies of your linebacker against the running back, and they like this matchup, right? You already have, if you're drawing a line here of kind of splitting where the alignment of the linebacker is compared to the running back, you get outside leverage here, right? So because of that, also watch the first step moving up here, right? First step of Barrett was forward, okay? And the first step of the running back, you see that arrow over here. I'm partial to my arrow. I like mine a little better. But but that first step of Barrett forward, right? He steps forward, really 2 steps. And as soon as right now you see Michael Barrett working to the outside now. His eyes are now focused on his target here, but he's already lost so much more leverage, right? Where before it was maybe a yard if I drew that line, right? Now you're looking at possibly 2.5, 3 yards here between them. And that's a lot of ground to make up against a quick running back, right? Barrett's a good athlete, but that's enough leverage for that running back to get to that spot and get there quicker on that line than Michael Barrett can get, right? And not only that, but because of that initial first step, right? Because of that extra leverage that the running back got right there. And I don't think it's necessarily a late reaction. I think this is just you got to hop instead of step forward, just take a slight hop, get light on your feet, get ready to react instead of stepping up. That hurts his angle. That puts him behind. He lost that leverage. And now he's in a full sprint to make this up, right? He has to just fully commit to this angle to try to cut this angle off because he's late. This running back can make that second move. Once he catches the ball, Barrett is in such a dead heat to cut off that angle. He can catch, stop, use that momentum against Barrett, and cut back for the touchdown, right? So it's not only just for that initial catch, but that momentum for Barrett to get out there works against him to make that tackle. So give credit to Indiana for probably scouting that and recognizing that tendency of Barrett here. And they execute well, right? It's again, not a too difficult of a throw, but it's placed pretty well. And the running back just makes a nice move to use that momentum of Barrett against him. So chalk this one up to, probably well scouted and just a lack of execution there for Barrett. Got to be a little bit more disciplined with that initial footwork.
And I hate to pick on the linebackers, but this is just kind of a piece of that. This isn't a standard scheme for them where, Barrett is essentially lined up like a true Mike linebacker and RJ Moten comes up. They're basically in a base 4-3 with Moten, the other linebacker there, taking on the tight end. So, and again, Colson, even on this play, he's looking over at the receiver, looking here. They just, they seem out of position, out of sorts. They're just not comfortable with their roles in the defense yet.
Yep. And a couple of comments here. They picked on DJ Turner. That worries me. It's supposed to be our top cover corner. He's still really good. I think it's actually a good sign that they're avoiding Jimon Green. He was more of the question mark. I think DJ Turner, they really very well may have saw that he was a little bit more grabby and thought that, if they try to throw a ball up there in a jump ball situation, things like that, they might get more flags, which they did. So I'm guessing that might be why Indiana went that way. And then this other comment specifically on this play, would have been nice if edge guy could have gotten a piece of the back, especially being that wide. I think they just like Oki lining up that wide in general. If you're trying to chip a back like that, I don't think Michigan really wants to do that against this offensive line. I feel like they want to just let their edge guys especially loose on this offensive line. They probably felt they had quite a bit of an advantage to get there. So I don't think the running backs for Indiana is really a priority to get the edge guys to chip them, right? If it's a really good running back like Penn State or something and you get that opportunity, then do that, right? Singletary, different guys, Mayan Williams or Travion Henderson, maybe you can teach them to focus on that, but I don't think the Indiana running backs strike the fear and you quite like those athletes Michigan will see later on. Okay, let's move on here. End of the first quarter, 2nd and 9, little play action. Again, decent amount of time here. Jalen Harrell just makes his way through. And 2nd and 9, right? It would have been 2nd and, 17 or probably even longer than that. It's looking like probably a 10-yard sack. So you're looking at 3rd and 19, and then the refs flag them for just the wiping of the face motion, right? I don't know exactly what this means, right? They call it, and we'll get a different angle here. Here we go. I don't really know exactly what it means. I watched the Ohio State game, and they did it on offense after a touchdown. Not a throat slash. This is almost just like a ref. I don't know if you remember the bit from, what was it? Jackie Moon. What was that Will Ferrell basketball movie? Where well, anyway, the story is he does in the movie, they do an alley-oop, and the ref is like, that's a foul. No, that's 2 fouls. And they don't know what it is. They don't know what they're looking at, and they call a penalty because it seems like something that is a taunt that could be a bad thing, and they don't know what it is, so they call a foul for it, right? Again, there was another unsportsmanlike conduct play against Indiana that was really weak, that was out of bounds, and the refs just wanted to throw flags. But that's a huge deal. When you get pressure like this, and it turns into a 3rd and 19, right? It's a really good play from Jalen Harrell here just to work off of 70. If we go back to that initial move, right? It's actually decent blocking from Indiana here, but Jalen Harrell just a nice rip move there. And he's just going to find his path to the quarterback. So this is more of a coverage sack and lack of Bazelak getting rid of the ball. So give credit to Jalen Harrell. And you see the celebration all the time. It's just one of those things where, this ref is just confused, and it works against Michigan in this case. So it's a bummer at this time, right? It would have been 3rd and 19. Pass rush is getting home, and this just extends a drive at a time where you would hope Michigan would have really grabbed hold of the game and ran away with it. But unfortunately, you're not allowed to mimic wiping your nose for whatever reason.
Yeah, it's something that's been prevalent in the NFL for years.
Yeah.
So it's just ridiculous. I feel like Michigan gets picked on this more than anybody. Was it Tariq Black with the flexing motion after a first down? I'm like, so I think actually Harbaugh, I used to hate the sideline turnover celebrations, like the chain that Miami started and some of those other ones. I just thought they were corny or whatever. And Michigan does the photos and now they've brought out the buffs or whatever.
Yep.
But Harbaugh made a great point that you do anything on the field now, you might get flagged. On the sideline, you can do whatever you want. So they're almost encouraging these celebrations on the sideline so you don't get a penalty for something stupid like that.
Yeah, it's a good point. And then if you do have something cool, especially like after a turnover with the sunglasses, it can then have the players more focused on getting to the sideline to put on the glasses rather than, you know, focusing on a celebration on the field. So I'm with you. I think it's better to do that because of the unpredictability of having the refs.
Made for a great picture though.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I posted that one a bunch.
All right, moving into the second quarter here. Let's see what we got. 2 backs in the backfield. This was another, okay, I promise this is probably the last official based review here that I have. But I think you see one of these guys. Yeah, so you see the substitution here happening.
Oh, yeah.
And what this means, this ref is stopping Bazelak from snapping the ball. And that's because if the offense snaps the ball, in the rule book, if you look it up, the defense is allowed a reasonable amount of time to also substitute. So this is why I included this. This ref is holding the snap. This is a player coming in, calling another Michigan player to sub out. He is working across here. So this is that same ref that I pointed out earlier. He's now stepping away. The issue here is that number 2 is the one who is substituting out, right? So you had a player running in. I think it was DJ Turner. You got Will Johnson running out now, subbing out. And the issue is this ref is supposed to hold this, right? He is supposed to hold this before or until Will Johnson's off the field. You're allowed to substitute because the offense did. You're allowed to put your personnel on the field because the offense did that. Instead, that ref just says, you know what? Don't hold him up anymore. And Michigan gets called for too many men on the field, right? And in this case, this would have been big, right? 1st and 10, Michigan defended this well. You know, it would have been 2nd and 10. And instead, you're going to get a penalty call for having too many men on the field. And I mean, that's big, right? 2nd and 10 versus 1st and 5. If this happens future, like early, like later on in the season in a game that matters, I'll be mad, right? I'll be livid because this isn't just a bad call against a team. This is bad refereeing, right? And I think this is a good indicator of, I don't care who's it against. That's just not how you operate a game as an official. And that's why there's a lot of people wishing that there's accountability held against the refs, and there is none right now except behind closed doors. So here we have Harbaugh saying you got to let them get off the field. You got to have time to get them off the field. It looks like this ref's like, yeah, I know. And then he's like, don't call that then. All right. If you, so like whatever this ref said behind his mouth, right? He probably doesn't want it to be on camera. Harbaugh then turns to him and says, don't call that then. Or something like that. So it's like, he's probably getting affirmation that like, yeah, you know,
and this starts dominoes. This starts dominoes of makeup calls, which I know no ref will admit to it. We saw a couple in this game, right? Where the only way to fix a bad call is to make another one. Like that's fair, right? And then it just spirals out of control at that point.
Right.
So
yeah,
I think, you know, we talked about obviously the Mike Hart situation. You know, we're watching film and doing numbers and stuff, but that obviously had an impact. And then, you know, the pace of Indiana and then some of these calls, it had Michigan on tilt in the first half, and they just didn't look themselves.
Yeah, it's hard to get in a rhythm. It's hard to, and especially keep your mindset, right? When you have the sense of like, man, this is BS, whatever, and you're on defense and all these things are happening. It's tough to get in rhythm, tough to be focused. It's things that are kind of bouncing around your head outside of what you should be focused on. So it just takes away from the game itself, and you're more focused on other aspects, and that can lead to more mistakes and more things. One thing right here, Shadyville asked, they mess up in our favor later on, made Indiana have to call a timeout. Shouldn't they reset the play clock? No, that was because Indiana was late subbing, and they were holding up the quarterback as a result, because of Indiana's late substitution while Michigan was subbing and the ref was holding the snap. That's why Indiana had to call a timeout, because Indiana waited a while before subbing out. And while Michigan was substituting in reaction, that would have led to a delay of game without that Indiana timeout. So that was the issue, or that's what happened later on.
Yep.
Okay, moving on beyond the refs, okay, because there were a lot of other things that Michigan did not do well here outside of what the refs were doing, okay? And this is what we were talking about, Trevor, and earlier in the comments asked about running backs in coverage here, right? So this is actually a good job from Khalil Mullings. He's going to recognize this wide receiver going to the flat, or I'm sorry, this running back out of the backfield, and Khalil Mullings is going to follow that, right? So let's focus on Khalil Mullings here. Good job of him following that running back out, right? He's maybe a step behind, but he's at least on his key, right? He's actually there. The issue here is Jimmy Rolder, number 30. Oh, I haven't called his name out too much, but he buries himself in the line, right? And what I'm looking at here is right here. So he's going to see this play action here. He's going to kind of bury himself here, when in reality he has a big zone in the middle of the field that you're going to notice there will be a football in the premises of that little zone that I called out there. And that's exactly where the ball goes. So this is just a matter of not being disciplined, right? Exactly where that zone is. If you, instead of Jimmy Rolder, right, instead of taking that little hop step here and seeing if this is a fake or not, if he does that, then he'll have time to work back right here, right around this area, because your other linebacker has the running back heading out to the flat, right? So this is your area. And Roller just goes up to the line of scrimmage here, bites way too hard, and is not even close to being in the right area for this play action pass zone right there. So again, kind of what you were saying, Trevor, where Michigan is just trying to find an answer there, and that's an issue. So there's no answer there, right now. There is no answer. And until you start just getting in the right area, right, doing the right things as a linebacker right there, you're not going to get consistent time at that position. You can't be making those mistakes continually and expect to see the field. That's just how it is.
How good is Rod Moore at tackling, man? Every time, textbook.
That's true.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's playing linebacker in this defense is complicated too.
Yeah.
So and Rolder's a freshman, right? Just like Colson was last year. So, and then, Barrett was a Viper that they're trying to convert into he's like the last man standing from those Viper recruits that they've tried to convert into this defense. And yeah, they're struggling. So it's halfway through the season, but
it's a good sign that he's seen the field at all, right? As a true freshman, being a linebacker, it's hard. So me picking on him isn't necessarily me saying that he's not going to work out or that he's a bad linebacker. He's a true freshman linebacker. And this is 100%. A sign that Michigan sees something in him. They're just trying to get reps. And, hey, this is a teachable moment, right? Kind of what we were saying last week, where if you have teachable – or 2 weeks ago against Maryland, if you have teachable moments and you can get a win, then that's getting live reps like that is the best way to learn. So it's something that, you just hope that Michigan can figure out and has a number of options when you do face teams where these sorts of mistakes, you have time to work through them and they don't end up in a loss. Okay, second quarter here again. This is, again, another, I would call just linebackering mistake. And this one is, again, kind of technique based. So it's going to be a clever little move here out of this tight end. So he's going to come out here, he's going to fake an out, and then he's going to go upfield, okay? And they're picking on, again, Khalil Mullings. So this is why I say that I think Indiana is well scouted here, right? Because you look at the eyes of Connor Bazelak and where he's looking. He's looking initially kind of trying to sell this sort of out and up here on the outside. But really, he's looking for this matchup the entire way. So you notice that little fake out move, and that gets Khalil Mullings to bite, right? He bit on that out route. As soon as he starts heading vertical, right there. Yep, that is defensive pass interference, right? So as many of the poor calls we saw, this is just Indiana doing a good job picking on the linebackers and that's an appropriate flag. Khalil Mullins just got in coverage, and that's going to happen. It's a good fake there from your tight end. And as soon as he committed right there, right, especially look at the eyes. He's not focused on where the tight end goes. As soon as he does right there, look at the eyes of Khalil Mullins, right? That's when he's lost him, because now he's lost contact of what this route actually is, right? He's all in on this being the route. As soon as he actually feels this guy going vertical, right, he can't see what's going on. So his body and his mind are going to be out of sync here. And now he's really surprised. He's surprised he's running into him because he's expecting to be a half step behind him, challenging on this out route. So again, clever route, clever execution. And this is just Indiana picking on the small, weak spots that Michigan's defense does have. So give credit where credit is due, right? Pick up yards by any means necessary. You again could argue that this might be uncatchable. It looks a little far, but anything that has that sort of gray area of whether something is or is not, catchable, they're going to call in favor of the offense. And that's what you get here, where would 84 have made it there if he wasn't impeded? Maybe, right? Give him 20% chance, but that's enough. That's enough to pull the flag and give him credit for calling it. So,
yeah, you're not allowed. I mean, it's got to be pretty obvious. That's when, I looked at it. I'm like, this is unfortunate because he either would have been jumping right about here to try and go up and get it, or he would have had to been reaching, going deep on that route. So it wasn't a great throw, but yeah, it doesn't matter. That's just too obvious of an impediment. They got to make that call.
Right. Don't make it easy on the refs, right? That's the thing. Don't make it easy for them to make a call. And that is a pretty egregious way to get a call there. So again, give credit, and that led to a field goal for Indiana, and we got a tie ball game. A little bit further here, again, we're back into the lighting yards on fire situation, right? Look how easy that is. Whenever I see something that looks that easy, it's like, why is it that easy, right? Michigan is continuing to be in this too high safety look. And look at the initial motion here. The initial body language of the safety is moving back, right? And you got 1, 2, 3 with only 2 defensive backs, right? So who's your first guy to really challenge on the outside? Again, making it too easy on Indiana. Your linebacker or one of your safeties is the best chance at defending a quick throw out here. All you need are 2 blocks, right? And that's just way too easy for Indiana. Point at the wrong blocks there, but the concept still holds, right? So that's just an easy 10 yards. It's way too easy. It's 12 yards, right? And Junior Colson from the linebacker position is the first guy to make contact. So this is another case where it's just like, if you're Indiana, you can pick up free yards while you're, outgunned, really, outmanned and out-talented. You're going to take that every day. And that was pretty prevalent on multiple plays on this drive. Another one right here, right? We see same exact play pretty much on the other side. And this one isn't as successful, but it's still, what is that, 6 yards, right? 6 yards here. And look at the alignment, right? Go down, block, little slip screen here, easy throw, right? And you got 2 guys here that won't make contact until you're about 6 yards downfield. So again, it's just about making things too easy. Where are you outgunned against this Michigan team? Your offensive line is going to get mauled, right? Your running back probably doesn't have the athleticism to bowl over any of the linebackers. But you got a lot of space. How can you utilize that space? How can you pick up the easiest yards? This looks pretty easy, right? So this is where I was most frustrated with the defense all first half.
I think they did a good job of taking out Mike Sainristil's strengths as well, right? He's normally pretty good at getting off these blocks and either making a play on the ball carrier or at worst forcing them back inside. So, his buddies can come and make the tackle. And both of these plays, they trip him up a little bit with, because he's playing off, the other receiver comes over and gets in his way, a much bigger receiver as well, right? So yeah, I remember with Jabril Peppers, like the big thing was like, oh, you got to go away from him. Well, no, that gives him the freedom to get over and make the play. So when you have a physical player in a position where you don't normally expect physicality, the best way to go after him is to go right at him. So, if you're going to give him that space, like you said, and then you're going to let me get a matchup where I can, take some of the physicality out of Sainristil, now I've got 6 easy yards.
Yep. Give Sanders still some credit here. He does at least
force him back in.
Yeah,
yep.
back inside. That's what you want to do. He is, like you said, outside. So I think that's a big focus there that they had is, we know this guy can be a problem on the boundary. Let's just make sure we have a bigger guy there. So it is, the difference between this being a 6-yard pickup and a 12-yard is Mike Sanders still forcing this back inside. So on the right track here, but still going into the locker room, this had to be something where Michigan was like, yeah, this just isn't going to cut it, right? And here again, look at what you got. We're going to, before we even look at the play, 3 and you got 4, right? What are we doing out here, right? Way too easy. Way too easy. And again, you're putting a big guy, 84, out there.
Rod Moore this time.
Yeah, he was blocking Rod Moore. But again, you're reducing the complexity for your offense. All you really need is really two good blocks here. And if you get a third, then you're possibly looking at a touchdown or at least a first down. You're just minimizing the amount of mismatches that you have from a talent perspective against a better team in Michigan, right? So this is all from the same drive, right? And this is where Indiana started to realize, hey, we just need to do this over and over again, and we won't need to get in down and distance, longer, obvious passing down situations, which is our kryptonite here. So impressively done for Indiana here. This led to a blocked field goal, but Indiana goes into half tied 10-10. And luckily now we're going to turn into the second half to see the adjustments that Michigan did make. But man, that was frustrating when you see a team just picking up easy yards like that. As a fan, it's got to be frustrating. As a coaching staff, that's had to be priority number 1 going into the locker room.
Yeah, I say 40 minutes in of negativity. Do you have any?
Yeah, let's turn it around. Okay, so what happened here? Michigan had scored at this point, 17-10, and now you're starting to see just like little adjustments here, little things that are a little bit better. Not really from an alignment perspective here, but you do see a little bit quicker reaction with the motion out here. You're going to get a linebacker flowing out here, and I think Michigan made a conceited effort to try to force things back inside. Okay, even though right here, I think this is a conceited effort from, I believe this is Makari Page, work to the outside, right? If they're going to try to screen us, try to force it back into the teeth of our defense. So Makari Page is going to work to the outside shoulder of this wide receiver, and that's going to force this guy in motion to also block him, right? So what does that do? That allows a cleaner path for your linebacker because of him cutting off the outside here. It's going to force this wide receiver back towards the linebacker. It also kind of frees up this defensive back as well. So he's taking out really 2 blockers here, forcing it back inside, and you're going to allow a little bit pursuit. Just don't make things easy, right? If they want to go for this, make it a little bit more difficult. And look at that path, right? Just look at that path a little bit for the linebacker. Much easier, much closer to the line of scrimmage, right? He's just approaching the line of scrimmage. He's going to get contacted there just about 2 yards. You'd still like to see Junior Colson react a little bit quicker, right? He's got the angle there. Or I'm sorry, is that Barrett? Yeah, that's Barrett. You'd like to see Barrett here kind of bear down on that a little bit quicker. I don't know why. I think he's still a little bit nervous about the wide receiver cutting back inside. But this is closer to what you want to see, right? Contact right around the line of scrimmage. Sure, he picks up 3 yards, but 2nd and 7 is a lot different than 2nd and 4 going against Indiana. So that's just good reaction and good play from Makari Page, just enforcing that outside, right? Enforcing that outside to let the teeth of your defense make it hard for the wide receiver to pick up anything, any meaningful yardage on this sort of play.
Yeah, that was a big change we saw in the second half was more Makari Page, right? More physicality. They kind of made a change. Moten's out there on this one, but we saw a lot more Page in this one. Some other little adjustments I'm sure you'll get into, but yeah, they definitely knew they had to get tougher on the outside. Yep.
And so this is, this was 1st and 10, and this is at 7:38. So this is that same, that same drive. So they were at 2nd and 8 or so. I think they ran the ball. It's 3rd and 6 now. Now you're 3rd and 6. That's a little bit more difficult for Indiana, right? And what do you do if you're Michigan here? You're going to bring some pressure here. And I think a big reaction Michigan made here, you don't see any safeties high here. You're bringing a bunch of guys down low, and you're in man. Okay, so this is just going to be kind of a 4-out concept here for Indiana, out and out, and on the other side as well, out and out. You don't have any safety over the top here. So I think Michigan was respecting Indiana a little bit too much. They recognize their tendency to go more towards the pass. You don't have too many safety valves here, right? There's nothing deep. You're just manned up and saying, you know what, we're going to be able to cover you one-on-one. We're going to be able to match up. We really only have one guy here that isn't in man-to-man coverage. And that's your linebacker. So you're bringing heat, right? You're bringing heat. You're saying, if you want to beat us one-on-one, then prove it, and we'll see what we can do, right? So give a lot of credit to Will Johnson here for closing that gap, being physical, shutting that down, right? And because it's 3rd and 6, because of that better play against the screen, you can give up something like this, right? You can still play a little bit off the line of scrimmage here and give up that 4 yards. It's not a big deal because you can trust your athletes to close in space there. If it's 3rd and 3 or 3rd and 2, like it had been for Indiana most of the first half because of those easy yards, this won't work, right? But you're allowed to do this now in more obvious passing downs. You're able to focus more on your pass rush, able to give up these shorter routes with this alignment and focus on your athletes in space to make plays like this. So I like that adjustment. And Michigan, again, just because of those initial downs, 1st and 2nd down, playing that much better, you're much more likely to have those obvious passing downs where Michigan can really play to their advantage.
I just hate seeing receivers not get to the sticks. It just drives me nuts. But yeah, I mean, when you get pressure home and you dare that, like at some point you just got to say, we're better than these guys, dare them to beat you, you know?
Right. Yep, absolutely. Moving in here, we're finally going to see these screens met with aggressiveness. Okay, so you have your orbit motion here. It's actually a little double screen that I think, you know, Indiana recognized they're probably going to have a stronger reaction to our screens now, right? So you got one-on-one coverage here on the outside. This little orbit motion from number 12, that's going to bring Makari Page up, right? And what they're going to do is Connor Bazelak's going to really just turn and kind of sell this a little bit. And then this other running back is going to set up for just a little halfback screen in the middle here. So this is a good, you know, I like seeing this reaction out of Michigan, right? You're burned by this a bunch because of this reaction up here. You know, Indiana is, I think, expecting this sort of reaction from Michigan. So they're kind of leaking this running back, making it look like he's in pass protection, and then he's going to turn around and look for the pass. This is just I wanted to highlight this really heads up play from Mason Graham, recognizing that this running back is right in his face and you know, not only fighting off the pass block here, but also recognizing that there's a screen here. So watch the true freshman there.
Throw this dude down first.
Throw the guard down, spins off, identifies the running back right here, and then stays attached to him, right? It's just really good play, really heady play for a freshman. You wouldn't expect that. So again, I think this is, you know, this is 2nd and 10. So being able to sniff this out, have better reactions to the screen here, that's all that Indiana really had, right? That's what they hung their cap on. So being able to have that initial reaction to the screen up top, have your defensive line continue to execute well, and sniff out plays like that. I think this is where I started seeing, like, okay, Michigan is understanding of what's happening here and shutting a lot of this down. So there were some earlier plays as well. We're already in the 4th quarter here, but I think this illustrates a lot of Michigan's respect for the screen and dedicating resources towards that rather than before when they were dropping 2 safeties high, right? You're sacrificing one of your safeties to fly down at this, right? Instead of keeping your 2 high safeties here, you're rotating over and you're essentially dedicating the safety to that screen. So this is the gamble that Michigan took. Said, hey, if you want to rely on these screens too much, go ahead. Like, we trust our guys enough where we're not going to have too high against this anymore. We're selling out against this screen and prove that you can beat us some other way.
You called out Graham here, but the foreshadowing here of the Mozzie Smith and Mike Morris turning their dudes into sleds. And then I think Jalen Harrell, it doesn't matter because of the play Mason makes, but he makes a great play here as he's pursuing. He also recognizes the screen.
Great call. Yeah.
And gets back. So if Graham's not there and the running back does make the catch, Harrell's right there to wrap him up. So everybody on the line made a great play here.
Yeah, and it's one of those little things where when you see the quarterback continue to back up like that, right? And I think that's what Jalen Harrell saw when you're 32 there and you see that quarterback do that fake and then continue to back up, right? Usually that's not an indicator that he's throwing downfield or you're going to be sticking around too long, right? So it's a really good job. You can see the eyes there of Harrell recognizing that sort of motion from the quarterback, turns, right? He's got his eyes. He's looking now at the running back. Then he's going to look back between these two players and recognize that. So it's a great call out. It's not just Mason Graham. Seems like the defense is now prepared for that. So yeah, really great call out there.
I think he pointed at his head too. Like, yeah,
oh yeah, you're right. He's like, yep, I saw what you were going for there. Not going to let it happen. Okay, and this is the very next play, right? Because of that 2nd and 10. Now you're 3rd and 10. You're down by 7. It's the 4th quarter. If you're Indiana, you don't have a whole lot of options other than trying to pass the ball here, right? And if you're an offensive lineman going up against Yabioki, you don't have many other options except get absolutely pancaked, okay? So Yabioki just going straight over number 67, this right guard, just absolutely demolishes him. And, I mean, yeah, Yabioki said it in his transcript. Someone, or not in his transcript, in his when he was made available to the media, I think it was after the Iowa game. It's not what you do early on, right? It's not about what you pass. It's what you're putting on film now, right? That's what people care about. That's what defense or offenses in the future will be worrying about. And that's what the NFL is also looking at. So when you're able to use that arm extension like that, I don't care who you are, against an offensive lineman in the Big Ten, it's going to raise some eyebrows. So Yabioki coming on, and the trajectory is really high for him. So looking at like anybody else on the offensive line, you know, this was the Yabioki show here. But you have both your defensive ends, Chris Jenkins and Mike Morris, really kind of constricting this to where there's no real path for Basilic out here, right? You have Mozzie Smith also winning his block on the inside. So really got all 4 guys kind of converging to a single point of destruction there. It's just Yabioki, first one, emphatically making his way into the backfield there. That's fun, man. He's going to be a guy. I think we lost Trevor here, but this is going to be fun, man. Watching his trajectory, continuing on here, that's the kind of guy that you're going to be scared of, right? And as he gets more comfortability in the defense, we continue to see a snap count raise. That's just good stuff, and I don't expect it to slow down anytime soon here. Okay, moving into next play here. This is the subsequent drive for Indiana. Here, good reaction off of the initial screen, and this just provides enough time. This provides enough time for the pass rush to get there, right? So you have this motion, this orbit motion again. He's coming out of the backfield here. So again, what are you looking at? You're looking at 2 blocks on the outside. They're actually going to fake this a little bit, right? So I don't know if this is a design fake because Bazelak will hold the ball here, right? So he doesn't throw that initially, and then you see the routes being run for Indiana, right? So, but the issue here for Indiana is when you have that initial reaction that Michigan does, right? When you're sending the safety up here, right? Same thing. You got a guy in orbit motion, send him down, right? These 2 guys are running sort of stalk routes, so they're going to pretend like they're going to block and then head downfield. This just takes time, right? When you have this reaction, this is going to shut this down. Anything else, you're going to allow time for the pass rush to get there. And that's exactly what happens, right? So even if this was thrown, I think this was, you know, it's possibly something that Indiana has a read on, right? If they see that safety coming down, then look for the other routes, right? That could be something that's called, or this is just called a fake screen and try to see what's downfield. As soon as Bazelak sees, right, that, oh, these guys aren't flying up, right? This isn't the reaction. These guys flying up to the ball here, right? This is the reaction because of that, right? This not only is not applicable to throw, but these options aren't going to be open because these guys are still locked into their pass coverage, right? They're not they're not reacting quickly to this sort of screen. So because of that, Bazelak has to look elsewhere, right? Now he's looking towards the center of the field. You got a late slip here. He's slipping out. And now it's like, okay, I need to step up in the pocket because I've given some time for the pass rush. And again, you got multiple guys. You got more coming. That looks like Jalen Harrell coming off as well. So you got multiple bodies there. So that all this extra time, right, because of that initial reaction to that orbit motion, that screen, because of that, as soon as you have to come off of your first and second reads, right, there's your first read for Bazelak, there's your second read. As soon as you have to come off of that, right, now you're looking towards the center of the field. By the time you have to throw, because the pressure is bearing down on you, there's no good options, right? So that's where you're at if you're Indiana at this point, right? 2nd and 10, trying to get that easy yardage, and there's no more easy yardage to find, right? So that's huge. That's huge to have that. And now it's going to be 3rd and long, right? So this is the very next play. It's 3rd and 10 and obvious passing down, right? And what has happened up until this point on obvious passing down? That, okay? So that's it. That's it. As soon as you can force Indiana into obvious passing downs, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. And that's what happened to Indiana time and time again when Michigan forced them into obvious passing downs. Now, this is something that should have been called a penalty, okay? Probably, right? We don't get a down-the-line view. But as we welcome Trevor back, hopefully Trevor is back.
If this doesn't work, I'm done.
You sounded a little bit like a robot, not entirely. So I think you're back. I think you're good. So what we see here, I think this should have been called offsides on Moore, right? It looks like he's lining up in the neutral zone over the ball. Seems like that's not that he was lined up a little bit over the ball there. Probably should have been called offsides. It wasn't, right? And the refs, as we had covered extensively, we're not on their A game here, but it's a good job from him just reaching around the end here and able to make that play, right? So, I mean, again, we got another true freshman here making a play on the defensive line. Not a name I expected to call out much this year, but give him credit, give him that sack, and Jalen Harrell's giving him a hug because he's also there. So, again, the more you can force Indiana into these obvious passing downs, right? And just look at the alignment again. Right? No obvious numbers here for Indiana to take advantage of. You got a single high safety, right? So if you're trying to throw a quick screen, now you don't have the bodies, right? And Michigan's alignment here takes that away just naturally, especially given it's 3rd and 10, you can't reliably run those. So it's something that because of Michigan's alignment, it takes a little bit extra time for Indiana to find those guys. And it's just a good job for Michigan to recognize that, make those adjustments to force Indiana into these more awkward situations. And Michigan's pass rush really ate that up, right? And offsides or not, right? This is just a pure speed move from Moore around the outside, right? From a true freshman defensive lineman, you're looking for competence. You're not looking for stardom, right? So for a true freshman defensive lineman to use his hands like that, to work, continue on to the outside, disengage, and continue to make plays, right? Not just survive, but make plays. That's really good for Michigan's trajectory on the defensive line in the future, right? When you got 2 defensive linemen who are true freshmen here, making multiple plays that I'm calling out here, that's extremely rare. It's extremely rare across college football, let alone in the Big Ten, right? So that's huge. That's huge. Continue to make those plays. You're only going to see growth there. And I was happiest that Michigan found ways to get their defensive line involved, right? Because of these quick passes, because of those screen plays, Indiana was able to take Michigan's defensive line out of this for a long time, especially with the pace that they play at, right? That's a lot of conditioning. That's a lot of difficult time. Excuse on the field for that defensive line. You're always running, trying to get set. You can get gassed really easily. So for Michigan to finally, late in the game here, find a way to get the defensive line involved and use that strength effectively to the tune of, 7 sacks? That's huge. That's huge. The M&BR fellows, remember to like the stream. Thank you for calling that out, and I appreciate you. Let's see. Look at the stat line for Bazelak after, and some still think that JJ isn't doing enough. After his 5th start, he's showing great understanding of the game in addition to his natural ability. We'll cover the offense in a future stream, okay? I don't know if it'll be tomorrow or Wednesday, but we will look at that. We'll look at the offense next, okay? So that'll be the next stream here. Let's see. If Graham continues on this trajectory, he'll hear his name called on day 1. That's bold. That's bold, but he's on a great path, right? He's on a really good path. Let's see. Exciting play there. There were 3 freshmen D-line in that play. Oh, yeah. I didn't even call out Kenneth Grant, right? Is that the big boy out there, 78? Yep, there he is, making moves. So, yeah, man, I'm excited. This was a really, really good adjustment, right? Going from the first half to the second half, that's really big to have that. So to be able to show that improvement in the locker room, especially under a new defensive coordinator, right? Jesse Minter, that gives you a lot of confidence that he's able to see things live and make adjustments on the fly. Really glad that, they held Indiana to way less than 100 yards. I think it was closer to 30-something yards in the second half of total offense. So that's a hell of a job for Michigan's defense. We'll do a similar stream to this covering the same topic for the offense. So make sure you hit that bell notification, subscribe to the channel so you won't miss that. And we will go from there. As always, you can follow myself on Twitter at Osentoski. Let me pull that up, at Osentoski. If you want to subscribe, there's a lot of great discussion. Trevor puts up a ton of content throughout the site. So go check out the community there. I'm hanging out on the boards quite often. Great community that we got building up there. And beyond that, I'll be back later this week, and we'll have a good time. And yeah, let me know what you guys want to see, right? If there's ever a play, hopefully on the next one, when we're covering the offense, come prepared. Bring a play that you want me to review. I can always try to pull that up. And, I want this to be as interactive as possible. I want to make sure that the plays I'm showing you guys are the ones that you want to see. And that, we're providing value here because we're all learning, right? We're all learning. There are things that I can miss, things that you guys can teach me as well. So we're here to learn. We're here to have a good time. And I appreciate you guys for tuning in. So I'll check you later this week. We'll tweet out next time that we're doing the offense, but be prepared for that. And beyond that, go blue. All right, take care, everybody.